Fitt joining us. He's a research associate in the Asia-Pacific Security Program in the Center for a New American Security. So, Joshua, first of all, break down how China is believed to be targeting and attempting to influence Joe Biden's team.
Thanks, Natasha. The targeting could take many different forms, but it typically has three main aims: to steal private or secret information, create compromising situations that can be used as blackmail, or form quid pro quo relationships with people who have influence over policy. And intelligence officials haven't commented publicly on the details, but this is the type of threat that's not necessarily new. U.S. counterintelligence agencies and the transition team itself all expect this kind of targeting and are prepared to deal with it.
Now, relations between the U.S. and China have deteriorated significantly under Trump's leadership. I mean, tell us what the biggest sticking points have really been here and what Biden stands to inherit right now.
So the Trump administration's two biggest sticking points that stand out to me were trade disputes and the coronavirus. And due to the way that the Trump administration handled both of those issues, I expect them to remain a challenge in the next administration as well. On the trade front, President-elect Biden will inherit a phase one trade deal with China that appears to have created more problems than it solved. And the COVID-19 pandemic continues to infect nearly 200,000 Americans each day. And so these are major challenges, but the way Biden and his team have been talking about their approach to these issues is promising.
How can we expect Biden to approach these dealings with China? I mean, what will change under his leadership, and what will be the most important for him to address regarding China?
The president-elect stated in an interview with the New York Times yesterday that the backbone of his administration's China strategy will be a unified coalition of allies. And while the Trump administration created some worthwhile initiatives in the Indo-Pacific region, the fact is that Beijing knew that there was a fundamental lack of commitment at the top of our government to America's most important alliances. And so over the past year, there's also been a sea change in the way that the governments and people of Australia, India, and Japan think about China as a competitor. And so now is the time to implement a lasting strategy that can effectively harness the power of our unique strengths.
How do you think China views this incoming Biden administration? Is this a positive update for them, having a new administration in the White House?
I think it'll be an interesting time for them to reset from the way they calibrated to the Trump administration's leadership. I think things will be less confrontational in the public domain, but there's a bipartisan consensus in Washington that China is a strategic competitor. And so I don't think any of the tension necessarily will be released in the coming administration.
So China, in other words, is basically accepting, or I mean, they're looking forward to a challenge here. I mean, for China, what do you think is the most important when it comes to tackling and confronting the relationship that they have with the United States right now? What is their biggest goal here?
That's a good question. I'd say that the trade issue looms large for them. It's especially in the wake of the coronavirus pandemic. It's had a big impact on not only the Chinese economy, but the global economy. And so it'll be important to have a strategy that reflects these changing problems and addresses them.
Now, when it comes to human rights violations in China, obviously we've heard Trump speak up about this. We've heard the international community speak up about this. But are we going to be seeing any type of sanctions, any type of actual action taking place to deal with this, to confront China?
So only the president-elect and his team know for sure what their actions will be. But there's definitely room for more actions. Just yesterday in Hong Kong, activists were sentenced for protesting for democracy. And so these issues are very active. And I think it behooves the United States to comment on these things, to call out human rights abuses when we see them.